Okay, I'll get started. Aloha and welcome to today's HLA Next Step session, which is about the Kauaʻi Historical Society. Kauaʻi Historical Society was founded in 1914 and is charged with preserving the history of Kauaʻi County. We are honored to have speakers Ramona Kincaid and Daniel Wu from the Kauaʻi Historical Society to tell us all about KHS. Ramona Mona Kincaid retired from Kauaʻi Community College, where she served as a librarian and later as the director of the University Center and academic support. She has been a volunteer at the Kauaʻi Historical Society since 2017, where she operates under the title of Archivist, Librarian, Volunteer. Daniel Wu is a current MSLIS student at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign with an undergraduate degree in history from Stanford University. He has been a volunteer at the Kauaʻi Historical Society since 2021, where he operates as an archivist technician volunteer. Without further ado, I will turn the floor over to Mona and Daniel.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Lynette. And so I think I'll just begin as a typical historian might begin, is to tell you a little bit about the Kauaʻi Historical Society and start with its history. So it was founded in 1914 by members of the Kama'aina families of Kauaʻi. So some of the names you'll be familiar with, maybe. The first officers were William Hyde Rice, the first president, Reverend J.M. Lydgate, and Elsie Wilcox. She was a secretary-treasurer. And I might add that she was a secretary-treasurer for like 40 years. So she had longevity there. So their focus was to collect and preserve the history of Kauai and Ni'ihau for future generations. And that is the focus in a nutshell. In the beginning, they tried to inventory historic sites and mark them with bronze plaques and try to acquire the land around them to help preserve them and to ensure accessibility to everyone and for future generations, obviously. These sites, Hau'ola, City of Refuge, and Hikina, Akala, Heiau, and Wailua were their first projects. And in 1921, they acquired also 35 acres of Wailua, which became later Lydgate Park. Thank you. Yeah. And then, and so it was named after Reverend Lydgate because he made some tree, a lot of his efforts led to the preservation of Upper Wailua, Poliahu, Heiau, and its surrounding area. Other projects taken on by KHS at this time were the preservation of the caves at Ha'ena, the Menehune Ditch, and formerly the Russian Fort, and also Alikoko Fish Pond and the original Koloa Sugar Mill site. In the 70s and 80s, KHS supported such things as the restoration of Haraguchi Rice Mill and lobbied for repair of the Hanalei Pier. They supported the renovation of downtown Koloa and participated on the committee to renovate the Kauaʻi County building. So obviously, saving historic sites is central to the Society's mission. Decades after saving the Wailua complex, the Society found itself defending against development, like even after Wailua in 1988, the state wanted to amend their leases so that hotels could encroach on Heiau areas. And that was stopped by the KHS. So preservation, as you know, is an ongoing effort. Even now, Coco Palms is renovating. This might be the 5th or 6th time attempt at this. And they are still having issues with the abutting state land. Okay, today KHS provides research assistance delivered in person, by email, or by phone. We maintain the library, the historic archives. our videos and photograph collections. They're all, almost all except the photographs are available online. And we have public programs, produce newsletters, uh, and publish historical information in different formats. We maintain a website, social media sites, and provide access to our finding aids and manuscripts. And we advocate, as I said, for historic preservation in the public. And we also have special projects, which enhances the knowledge and experience of the people of Kauaʻi and Niihau. And I think Daniel's going to cover a few of these projects a little bit later. Our public programs were really dormant during COVID, as were and others. And so these past few years, KHS has hosted the annual Mu'u Pa'ina as a fundraiser and also an excuse to bring history events to the public. So for the entire month of January, we do things like historical walking tours of Lihue. We do a Trivial Pursuit with history trivia, a Kauaʻi history trivia. And we still continue a relationship with the Kaloa Plantation Days. We have a store there. We have tons of pictures of Kaloa during that time. And we have artifacts from Grove Farm that we borrow, and we have our books as well. So speaking of books, the Society has published several books to capture the island's past, beginning with the Kauaʻi album, which was a coffee table sort of photo and story book. And later we published the Kauaʻi Papers, which is a small compilation of the papers that were based on lectures that we had in the 1900s. And so even though we have the book, we have a bigger collection of the papers, and they become a serious resource for researchers looking for information from that era. Some of our latest book projects are Tambi Larson's Entertainments of Kauai, which was came out in print last year. And he was a Hollywood set designer and created these sort of set designs of locations in Kauai. And he used colored pencils mostly, but they're big kind of painting size. And the other project, most recently, that was this year, was Linda Moriarty's Lei Niihau. This would be her second book. And so we worked with local authors and also sell their books at the library, at the society. We have other popular titles, and they include the true story of Kalua I Ko'olau, as told by his wife Pi'ilani. That's by Francis Fraser, and Pat Griffin has a book on Lihue. And we have a little book called Mana, the Place and Its People by John Martin. So Kauai, the Kauai Museum, so that's up now? Yeah. Yep. So Kauai Museum and the KHS had a relationship in the 1920s. From the 1920s to 87, we pretty much were housed at the museum until they didn't have enough space. So we moved on. It was a good symbiotic relationship. We got money through dues, and then we transferred some of the money to the museum for their operations. But then, so when we moved out, we moved to Honolulu. We had meetings all over the state, the island. But I read a newsletter that said, oh yeah, alas, we have a final place. We're going to be going to the Cocoa Palms. And they went there in 1990. And Grace Guslander welcomed the society. She had a building for us. And she also donated her collection to us. And later still, she bequeathed us her personal collection, some of her personal collection, and which consisted of paintings and statues and things like that, aside from photos. And so you'll learn a little bit about that soon in this presentation. So, of course, Cocoa Palms, in the 1990s, so just 2 years later was Hurricane Iniki. So Cocoa Palms shut down, and we had to move out. And they moved to the historic county building in 1993. So we're showing now a early slide in 1914, and then another slide in 47 with the driveway coming right up to the building. Okay. The Historic County building was approved by the Board of Supervisors in 1912. So just a little history about the building. They bought 5 acres from the Lihui Plantation, and in 1913, the architects Ripley and Davis created a 2-story formal Greek revival style building. The total cost was $60,000 and which included furnishings. First county building, this is the first county building in Hawaii, and it's the oldest that has been in continuous use. Its formal opening was April 24th, 1914, and it was a grand ball conducted by Judge Lyle Dickey. And that's crucial because 2 days later, the Kauaʻi Historical Society was created. So the county building served as a courthouse and assembly space for the County Board of Supervisors and the central headquarters for other county functions. 2 days later, the Kauaʻi I said that the society was created. So in 1981, it was placed on the national and state registers for historic places. In 1982, a restoration committee was created by Mayor Tony Yukimura, and a few Kauaʻi Historical Society members were on that committee, and KHS was the one that managed the funding for the renovation. Okay, some memorable moments, just to lighten it up a little bit, was in 1960s, the building's exterior was painted pink with green trim. And during when Antone Vedina was the mayor. And in the 1980s, the office suites of Mayor Eduardo Malapit was bombed by pipe bombs twice in protest of the unpopular hotel development at Nukuli'i. And that is the development where, I don't know if you know your history of Kauai, but that was a development that restricted the height of hotels on Kauai to the height of a coconut tree. So we're going to show you this video now. The main office area and work area. And then our library. Sorry, but you will see things stacked up, and you'll understand why when you hear Daniel's presentation. And these 2 large paintings that you see are from the Gus Lander estate. This is our archives. So we are in 3 offices. Or, yeah, 3 offices. Okay, so now it's Daniel's turn, and he's going to give us a brief but dramatic account of an emergency location effort.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm just gonna bring up my notes really quickly. Uh, are you guys still on the slide that says the move?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Gwen. So this is my unit, or not my unit. This is the unit in question. It's a 20 by 40 foot space within a Kauaʻi County office building, not the Kauaʻi County office building that we were just talking about. It is across the street though, so that'll be it's important. Sorry if that's a bit confusing. They're two separate buildings, but they're both county buildings. And everything that is the historical societies is within this wooden and wire frame. So everything that's like concrete where the photographer's standing is not ours, but it is going to come up in a bit. Um, this is another angle of the offsite storage, and you'll notice that the space that the photographer is in is completely cleared out. This is because the entire section that this is in of the county building is being renovated. And in order to be renovated, you got to make everyone who's there no longer there, including us. The planning department was supposed to give us a heads up, but they forgot to do so. And we were given a week to move everything. So yeah, so much for the planning in the planning department. The unit had been in the historical society's use for over 20 years. So we had really come to rely on this space for the storage of our collection material from process materials that have been cataloged, are actively being accessed and retrieved for researcher use to unprocessed materials that do have historical value, but we just haven't had time to process and make accessible, supplies in those processing, and just miscellaneous materials that just accumulate in an organization's life. On the right, you'll actually see a lot of the Cocoa Palms Gustlander collection. It's wrapped in paper because a lot of it's not actually uh, paper material, that's furniture stacked up from the Cocoa Palms Hotel. So with a week to move all this stuff, that's not going to work. Yeah, I should go ahead and yeah, that was our reaction too. After some back and forth, talking with county officials, we got the deadline pushed back, and that conversation happened multiple times. But each time, we just kept planning to make the move as like efficient and safe as possible for our materials. Because one of the first things that needs to be addressed are uh, conservation and preservation issues. Uh, this is like not just a health issue for the people handling, but also a big concern for our collection material. As you can see from the left, there's mildew and mold present in this collection material. We are the Kauaʻi Historical Society, so you know it's Hawaii, it's a jungle climate, and the storage unit was unventilated essentially, and there's really no active pest management, or at least it was insufficient. So uh, there was a big bug presence, a lot of silverfish, and if we were going to bring material to our existing office space repository, we can't just do that knowing that it's teeming with conservation hazard. So for the next couple weeks, I sorted material. So first, if it wasn't important, we discarded it or auctioned it. Another classic Hawaii image. And for stuff that we wanted to keep, volunteers cleaned the material, and we brought them back to the storage or to our on-site office if it was really important to us. If it was worth keeping, but not really critical, we kept it there, cleaned it, but then saved it for the big move day, which miraculously did happen. But before that, we, as I mentioned, started with just incremental moves. So all of those boxes I just cleaned in that video, I transported to our office across the street, and Irregular objects, like this is a museum from the Cocoa Palms Hotel. It can't really tell us much about what historical value does the statue have? It's questionable, and it's a big space requirement. So we ended up auctioning off most of the Cocoa Palm stuff. After a month from the initial warning to move, we did clear the space in a single big day to our new storage unit and the auction house with the help of the county department, the Kauaʻi Museum, and Grove Farm. I don't have any pictures of the move itself because we were in and out of the space within 4 hours, so a lot of running around. Uh, at the auction house, you could see all of the paper that was wrapping the furniture in this pile right here, and all of this material splayed out. She had a big teacup selection, and we ended up raising 7,500 for the society as a result of the auction sale. In addition to teacups, a lot of Hawaiiana, a lot of furniture as well. And here's the final product. It's a private storage solution, two 10 by 15 units, and it's certainly not perfect. It's a bit of an accessibility issue as compared to a storage unit that you could walk to across the street, but it is climate controlled and there is pest management. But so that's a real peace of mind to have from a conservation point of view, and also just from a peace of mind of knowing that it's going to be our space until we stop paying rent. So now I'll hand it back to Mona for our volunteers.
Thank you, Daniel. Yes, okay, so how we run our offices. So we have a board of directors. There are 7 people on the board currently, and we have one position that is a paid position, but it's a half-time position, and that would be, we can point to this woman here, Pam Chalk, and she was formerly the executive administrator, but now she is the executive director. So she's gotten a little bit of a bump there, and happily for us, because we really do need someone who's focused more on fundraising. Okay, so with one half-time position, we have more or less 14 volunteers. And, volunteers are from all walks of life, students, retirees, moms, winter visitors. They have in common a love of history and a willingness to give us their time for free. So it's a great thing. 3 volunteers staff the offices regularly so that we can open our doors to the public, and we can only do that 2 days a week. The others, they volunteer when they are needed. They might be needed for special events, or they're here only during our winter months, and they whatever their schedule permits is when they can come in. And so we accept all comers, I guess. The volunteer staff, obviously, they receive donations. From the public. They do the research requests, as I mentioned. They scan and catalog. And there are some projects that are, like I call them, the lifetime projects, especially for poor Lorraine, who is our scanner. She comes twice a week to help scan. And she's working on a collection of the Garden Island photos before '93, before they digitized. And then we still have a lot of Gus Lander stuff. She had a lot of files that we've been going through and putting in our subject files. So we have subject files, we have the photo database, the library book database with maps, and we're also digitizing a lot of maps. So we did that we had a huge collection from Kekaha and Lihui plantations. And basically the members back a few years back did a dumpster dive near those locations. And went to pick up the maps and ledgers and all the things that were discarded and brought it to the society. So those were our lifetime projects. So many of them are digital right now. So we haven't been able to give people access to directly to the digital media maps. They have to come through us. If they find it in our database or in Library World, then we will mail them the digital piece. But right now, there's no direct access to the digital maps. Okay, so we're getting better after the years of COVID. Now we are this year, for example, I mentioned we had the Mu'umu'u Pa'ina, and then we had the 110th anniversary of our offices. And then we did Koloa Plantation Days again, and we did a book launch for the Linda Moriarty book on Lei Nihau. And we did some fine crafts and vintage fair work, and where we sell our antique books, we call them, our old books that are duplicates of what we already have. And so I'm going to give it over to Daniel. He's going to describe some upcoming projects he's working on.
So this is a photo of actually just two no yesterday's Kapuna Connections meeting, which is a organization really just a couple enabled by the Agency on Elderly Affairs to help the Kapuna with their technology skills. And I was introduced to this group through my schooling at the University of Urbana-Champaign through a digital equity, the Broadband Hui state group. And I realized that even though they're not strictly related to the Kauaʻi Historical Society's mission, they are really like deeply aligned with our values, like education and empowerment through education. And the Kapuna on Kauai have such special stories. Like they've grown up here, they have lived the last plantation days. And unfortunately, there's while we do have a lot of plantation material at the Kauai Historical Society, the question of like whether we have primary sources about their experiences is a different matter entirely. So I've been showing up to these Kapuna connection meetings, not just to help them with their computer technology skills, but also to uh, just get to know them. And hopefully this will be the start, the beginning body of a Kauai oral history and community archive project. So the way I got into the Historical Society was actually during the pandemic, interviewing Vietnam War veterans on Kauai for their experiences through oral histories. And that brought me to the Historical Society. I noticed that while we do have great material, primary sources from this generation is lacking. And in the next 15, 20 years, there's like it's just a sad fact that a lot of them are going to be gone. So I see this project as really a critical answer, or an answer to a really critical gap in our collection material, especially in this like political climate. If these stories aren't like being preserved now, there's a real concern that like they're just going to be ignored forever. And this project is still just beginning. So I'm just now starting to form relationships with these Kapuna and getting other volunteers and other organizations to help fund or just build the capacity to create oral histories en masse. The community archive section is also really important because in addition to creating oral histories with these Kapuna, a lot of them already have written accounts or photographs from their time growing up here, and they're really incredible stuff. I've been approached multiple times, basically uh, asking if, oh, like my diary from the 1950s, 60s worth anything. I'm just like, yeah, that is exactly what we're looking for. And unfortunately, it's a really prevalent mindset that amongst these kapuna that their lives are so ordinary, it's not worth recording. But that's exactly the what a community archive is supposed to do. So we're really excited. It's going to be a lot of work. And if you guys have any thoughts on this matter, any suggestions, we are definitely open to hearing them. And I'll give it back to Mona.
Mhm. Well, and just to wrap everything up, I would like to say that all of you know it's an ongoing effort to preserve history. And especially in light of the digitization projects these days, it's a space versus keeping original formats. And I struggle with it, as you must, every day. And I applaud your efforts. And please keep it up. And thank you for having us.
Thank you. These are our office cats.
And any questions, we will entertain.
Thank you so much, Mona and Daniel, for the wonderful presentations. We'd like to open up the floor now for any questions, so please feel free to unmute yourself to ask your questions or type your questions into the chat. So I'll start with the first question. How are you funded? Like, how is the KHS funded to do the job that you do? I know you have volunteers, but like to operate the KHS.
Uh, yeah, so we don't have any steady stream of funding.
I see.
We have we have some grants, small grants and loans that kept us afloat for a little while, and we still our go-to still. And as I said, we had a couple of big fundraisers recently with the Mu'umu'u fundraisers, which we that was 400 people, and for 2 years now. So, and we're charging $150 a ticket, and providing all kinds of entertainment, and also, like I said, some historical events as well.
And
So
when you
that's pretty much, and because we have mostly volunteers, it's kind of
Right. So like when you seek out when you said you had some grants, is it the halftime person that works there that seeks out the grants for you
Uh,
or
I do a little of it. The board director helps do a little of it. And now I think now the executive director is going to do some of it as well.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big issue, right? Because for me, when there was nobody there, it was easier to go after smaller grants that help with the upgrades in technology, and some of the administrative support, but didn't require too much reporting, I gotta say, sorry. You know what I mean? Because I'm the only one there to do all that. And so I just went out for the one-time grant. And most of these, a lot of our grants, we apply to like the Wilcox family has a suite of grants that we can apply for, and a couple of other small grants from families and things like that.
Mm. Thank you.
For the oral history project and community archive project, we're also actively looking for grants like that. So yeah, like the grant responsibilities sort of split up.
Mhm.
I see.
Well, I have a burning question. I just had coincidentally the other day saw an interview that was done with Sissy Lake Farm from the Maui Historical Society, and she talked about how Maui Historical Society is kind of this umbrella organization that works with a bunch of other like Lahaina Restoration Foundation and the historical folks on Lanai and Molokai and so forth. So my question is, does Kauaʻi Historical Society have any relationships like that with other organizations on Kauai? And do you also sort of network or cooperate with other historical societies on other islands and other counties?
Mhm. Yes, I can take that one. Yes, we work closely with the Kauai Museum. I also volunteer at Grove Farm Museum, so we're all kind of Grove Farm helped us in our move, that sort of thing. So we're pretty close. Kauai Museum helped us with sort of ascertaining the value of some of the Guslander material and that sort of thing. Other historical societies I have, I felt free to contact them and ask them questions. I mean, recently Family Search came to us to ask if we were interested in their projects, their genealogy projects, and also from Maui, we had Kepa Mali come and visit us and ask us about our Lahaina Luna papers that we copied for them and sent to them and digitized them and sent to them because I think that yeah, they lost so much. So they were very, very happy to have that.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So how can I find your events and things like that I can volunteer?
So that would be you can go to Kauaʻi Historical Society.org. That is our website, or you can go to, I think that social media, we're also on social media, and or you can just you can email us directly.
I'll put the email in the chat. Archives.
Okay,
Yeah.
archives at Kauaʻi Historical Society.
Sooner or later, I will be a free person.
All right.
Or I will have time.
Okay, thank
I don't
you.
mind to fly. Kauai.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
I have a question about ni hao then. I know that the Kauai Historical Society, it was mentioned that you also, um, you know, did the archives for Kauai and ni hao.
Mm-hmm.
How is there like how frequently do you make contact with ni hao and how do you get their materials?
Okay, well, I have to admit it's not frequent that we
Uh-huh.
have material from them. We had a set of material from uh, the author Rari Teva. She wrote a book about Ni'ihau along with another person who I've forgotten. I'm sorry. It was a male. And they made a book on Ni'ihau and they left us all of the material that they gathered when they went to do their research there. And she also left us a book to publish for her, which we haven't done yet, but we're working on Makaloa. And yeah, she had quite a bit of material on Niihau maps and families and that sort of thing. So that is our main material. And, indirectly we have maps and things like that. But we've had a lot of researchers come to look up that guy, Stephen Gentry, who just wrote the book on Niihau, a Niihau book. He spent a lot of time, I'm told, with the former director on researching his book here. But no, we don't have frequent communication with them, just occasionally.
Thanks. Thank you.
For the Lei Niihau book, Linda Moriarty, the author, did like collaborate with them a lot, interviewing them on the west side of Kauai, and also traveling across the Hawaiian Islands. And yeah,
Yes.
apparently the turnout for each showing was really, really good. So that was exciting to hear. I'm also gonna put in my student email, so if you guys want to reach out to me, in addition to Mona, you guys should do that as well. Let me know.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have another question about your book publishing. How do you do your book publishing? Do you work with another publisher to get your material published, or do you do it on an ad hoc basis? And do you make money off of your publications, or is it more just to make the material available?
Yeah, that's a very good question because we do use a publisher. And I mean, that Tomby book was 20 years in the making and it finally came out. But and we went through two publishers with that, or designers and publishers. And I think that one, it finally went to China and it was published there and then brought over. And then other people self-publish and they, and that's, although not the Late Ni'ihau and the Tomby books, they were not self-published, but we have one about the uh, the real story about the Hanapepe massacre by Catherine Lowe, and those are all self-published books. And do we make money off of them? Yeah, initially there's a big boom, the honeymoon period for the book, but it does tend to slow down. But I have to say that our book sales are pretty steady all the time because they're on the internet and people abroad, like to see it and want to, read about, say, Mana. We have a book about Mana, and things like that, local places where they once lived. Okay.
We also do sell a lot of the books that we weeded in our collection. So that's a lot of fun to like just go through. The catalog for that is not the most up to date, but you can access it on our website. For the mass public book, or like the new most recently published books, that the page for that is always up to date. Let me put in both URLs.
I guess I have another. I'm sorry. I
Go
feel
for
like
it.
I'm dominating the Q&A, but you mentioned, that the Kauaʻi Historical Society, from its inception, has been involved with historic preservation projects and protecting historic properties and so forth. And I know on Oahu, our Hawaiian Historical Society doesn't really do that, but we have other organizations that do, like Historic Hawaii Foundation comes to mind. So, is that still a big important part of Kauaʻi Historical Society's work, or are there other organizations that are also involved with preserving historic buildings?
Yes, there is the Historic Review Commission. They are very active in looking, especially when you want to do any development or something. They're very active about that and concerned about the preservation of historic sites. As in KHS, because there has been, quite frankly, the leadership has been in a flux too since the 1920s. 2019 and 2020, we went through about 3 different board directors and board presidents, I should say. And they have, unfortunately, they have to function too at that time as a director of the KHS. So many times it was like a half-time secretary and the director. And so just to say there wasn't a lot, I receive all of the information from government agencies or the historic planning commission about areas that are going to be developed and do I have any concerns about them. And I haven't, I mean, although I looked them over, I have never like come forth and said and raised the red flag because I don't feel like, well, number one, that there was a reason. And number two, well, that's about it. I didn't really feel, and then there was no one to go forth and present the situation. There was no director. There was no, I don't think the board president wanted to do that sort of thing at that time. So because of the flux in leadership, but now I think now that we do have a director again, so for 7 years when I was there, or 4 years when I was there, there was no director. But now there's finally a director, and hopefully those issues will be stronger. I have to be clear that our society has had many lulls, during the war years. I don't think they ever met and so forth. There are other times when there were lulls and maybe the interest level was low. But I think the 60s and 70s, they became very active again because of all of the protests and things like that and developments. So, okay. Sorry, I think I answered your question there. Okay, anyone else?
Well, I'll ask a question then.
Okay.
So with all of the things that you have in your storage area, and I know you digitize the materials and things yourself, like volunteers digitize the materials. How do you is there like I guess like how do you queue your things, your projects so that, what do you prioritize to work on for your digitization projects?
Uh, well, typically, I'm not going to choose a giant project for a volunteer that's only going to come in like, a couple of months or something like that. Uh, and so the big projects, like all those ledgers you saw in the storage unit, they have to be, we have to go through those and catalog some of them. Some of them are already cataloged, but a lot of them aren't. And so yeah, how do I choose? I might choose myself to do that kind of project while the people who come in, the volunteers who come in for maybe a month, I'll choose a project that will fit that time span.
I see. So it's
Yeah.
not like something in your collection that you see as the most important that you need to have done first or anything like that then.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of things that I feel are really, really important, but because you have to teach the volunteers as you
Yeah.
go,
Yeah.
it's a little bit more difficult. But if I have someone staying for a long time who already can do finding aids and will be able to go through the material, like a couple of the people are able to do that. So I'm thankful for that. But otherwise, it would just be myself. And yeah. That's a major project, and I'd have to be away from the office. And since I'm only there a couple of days a week, uh, people wouldn't be able to come in and do research and that sort of thing. So it's I just have to carve out some time for it.
I see. Thank you.
Mhm.
Does anyone else have any questions? Um, if not, we would like to thank Mona, Daniel, and the Kauaʻi Historical Society again for this wonderful session to learn about the wonderful work that you do on Kauai. We really appreciate you taking time out of your schedules to do the HLA Next Steps. The HLA Next Steps Committee is still working on the next session, and we will send out the announcements when the registration form is available. And with that, I'll say have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.